Just because of Jungkook. Why BTS concert tickets on his birthday vanished before ARMY could even breathe. What actually happens when one date on a global tour calendar stops being just a date and turns into a collective emotional trigger for millions of people around the world? What happens when a single name, a single birthday, and a single stadium collide in the digital space at exactly the same second? And why did September 1st, 2026, disappear from the ticketing map almost instantly, as if it had never existed at all? This is not simply a story about tickets selling fast. This is not merely another chapter in the long history of BTS breaking records. This is a story about Jungkook, about timing, about anticipation stretched to its breaking point, and about how the modern music industry is being reshaped by emotion, identity, and collective experience rather than supply and demand logic alone. This is the story of how BTS's pre-sale for SoFi Stadium on September 1st, 2026, descended into what fans now call a digital blackout, and why many ARMY insist that this night was never meant to be ordinary. When pre-sale access for the BTS World Tour Era Ring opened for SoFi Stadium, the system barely had time to register human intent. Screens froze. Virtual queues exploded. Numbers climbed at a speed that felt unreal. At its peak, more than 141,000 people were waiting in line, staring at loading bars and countdowns, all chasing the same thing, a chance to be inside SoFi Stadium on Jungkook's birthday. And then, almost without warning, it was over in minutes. The tickets were gone, not limited. Gone. Before many fans could even process what was happening, September 1st was sold out. Not after the official ARMY pre-sale. Not after general sales. But during a limited SoFi Pass pre-sale, with only a fraction of seats released. To many watching from around the world, it felt less like a sale and more like a vanishing act. Why did this happen? Why did this particular date collapse under demand in a way that even seasoned fans and industry watchers did not fully anticipate? And why are so many ARMY convinced that this moment proves something deeper about Jungkook's position in global pop culture today? To understand the scale of what unfolded, it is necessary to rewind the clock, not just to the moment the pre-sale opened, but to the emotional and cultural context surrounding September 1st itself. Jungkook was born on September 1st, 1997. For years, this date has held symbolic meaning within the BTS fandom. It is not simply a birthday, it is a ritualized moment of celebration, reflection, and connection. Fans across continents organize projects, charity drives, streaming events, and global tributes every year. In many ways, Jungkook's birthday has evolved into a shared emotional calendar entry for millions of people who may never meet but feel connected through his music, presence, and growth. Now imagine what happens when that date is no longer confined to social media posts and fan art, but becomes physically anchored to a stadium capable of holding tens of thousands of people. SoFi Stadium, one of the largest and most technologically advanced venues in the world, is not an insignificant location. With its massive capacity, global visibility, and status as a premier entertainment hub, it represents scale, power, and spectacle. BTS being scheduled to perform there for 4 nights already signaled something big. But placing Jungkook's birthday on the opening night of the Los Angeles leg transformed the event entirely. Suddenly, September 1st was no longer just the first night of concerts. It became the night. Long before pre-sale codes were sent out, ARMY had already circled the date in their minds. Conversations online shifted. Speculation intensified. Would Jungkook do something special? Would there be a birthday moment on stage? A surprise speech? A cake? A song? A memory that would exist only for those inside the stadium? These questions mattered. They fueled demand in a way that no marketing campaign ever could. By the time the SoFi Pass pre-sale opened, the outcome almost felt predetermined, even if no one fully understood how extreme it would be. Fans who entered the queue watched the number tick upward. 50,000, 80,000, 100,000, 141,000. For a pre-sale that reportedly offered only hundreds of seats, the math never made sense. The imbalance between demand and supply was so stark that many fans described the experience as surreal, bordering on absurd. Yet what shocked people most was not just the size of the queue, but the speed of disappearance. Within minutes, September 1st was gone. Screens that once showed seat maps suddenly displayed nothing. Error messages replaced hope. Refreshing did nothing. The date was effectively erased. Some fans later said it felt like the system had blinked and the opportunity had slipped through the cracks of time itself. Even before the official ARMY presale began, the birthday date was already being referred to as unreachable. On social media, reactions poured in from every time zone.
Shock,
Frustration,
awe,
resignation, and, beneath it all, a strange sense of validation. Because for many ARMY, this wasn't just bad luck. IT was proof of what fans have long described as the jungkook effect, a phenomenon that goes beyond charts, streams, or brand power. It is the idea that Jungkook's presence alone can fundamentally alter outcomes, intensify demand, and trigger emotional responses at a scale that defies traditional industry models. When one fan account on X stated, "Jungkook's impact is insane," it was not hyperbole. It was a summary of what thousands had just witnessed in real time. Reports from fans who did manage to secure tickets only added to the sense of chaos. Cecilia, one of the lucky few, shared that she obtained seats for September 6th in the 300 section at a price of $187.25 after taxes and fees. She also observed that nosebleed seats were priced around $87 before additional charges. According to her account, only the upper sections were available during the SoFi Pass presale, with the majority of seats reserved for later ARMY presales, and yet, even with these limitations, September 1st sold out almost instantly. This detail is crucial because it reveals that the frenzy was not driven by full inventory. It was driven by symbolism. The fact that only limited sections were open did not reduce demand. It concentrated it. Everyone knew the main sale was coming, but that did not stop fans from trying. Because for those chasing September 1st, waiting was not an option. Being present on Jungkook's birthday was the goal, and any chance, however small, was worth taking. As the digital dust settled, a narrative began to form across platforms. Fans described the birthday concert as a once-in-a-lifetime moment. Others called it historic before it had even happened. Some joked that September 1st had fallen into a black hole. But beneath the humor was a serious observation. Something unusual had occurred. This was not just high demand. This was emotional convergence. BTS has always been more than a band. Their global influence has long been rooted in storytelling, relatability, and shared growth with their audience. Jungkook, in particular, embodies a narrative that resonates deeply with fans. From being introduced as the youngest member to evolving into a global icon, his journey feels personal to many who have followed him for years. A birthday concert crystallizes that journey into a single moment. It invites fans to not just watch, but participate in a milestone. And participation is the key word here. In the modern music economy, fans are no longer passive consumers. They are active participants in moments, movements, and memories. Ticketing platforms, however, are still built on older assumptions of behavior, assumptions that struggle to account for emotionally charged dates like September 1st, 2026. The result is friction. Systems buckle. Queues balloon. Supply evaporates. From an industry perspective, the SoFi Stadium presale became a case study overnight. Analysts began asking uncomfortable questions. How do you price emotional value? How do you allocate seats when demand is driven not by convenience, but by identity? How do you prevent a single date from overwhelming infrastructure designed for evenly distributed interests? These questions have no easy answers, but they underscore a larger truth. BTS and Jungkook in particular operate at a level where emotion is a primary economic force. The tour itself, Arirang, already carried heavy symbolic weight. Named after a song deeply rooted in Korean cultural identity, the album and tour marked BTS's return after a long hiatus. The global anticipation was immense even without a birthday factor. The tour schedule, spanning from Goyang in April 2026 to Manila in March 2027, reads like a roadmap of global dominance, but Los Angeles occupies a unique place in BTS's history. It is a city where they have broken records, headlined major events, and expanded their presence in Western media. Opening the LA shows on Jungkook's birthday was not just a scheduling choice. It was a statement. Whether intentional or not, it set the stage for exactly what happened. As official ARMY pre-sales and general sales approached, fans around the world braced themselves. Some prepared multiple devices. Others coordinated with friends across countries. Many accepted that September 1st might already be lost, but hoped for miracles in later rounds and Indonesia, as in countless other countries. ARMY followed every update closely. Time zones blurred. Screenshots circulated. Advice threads multiplied. The shared experience of missing out became its own kind of bonding moment, reinforcing the sense that this concert had already become legendary, even before the first note was played. What makes this story particularly compelling is that it does not rely on numbers alone. Yes, 141,000 people in a queue is staggering. Yes, tickets selling out in minutes is headline-worthy. But the deeper narrative lies in why this happened and what it reveals about fandom in 2026. This was not driven by hype in the traditional sense. It was driven by meaning. September 1st represented a convergence of personal milestones, artistic legacy, and collective emotion. For fans, attending that concert was not about seeing BTS for the first time or last time. It was about being present at a symbolic intersection of time, identity, and gratitude. That is why the disappointment cuts so deeply for those who missed out. And that is why the success felt so validating for those who believe in Jungkook's singular impact. As one fan put it, this isn't just a concert, it's history. Whether the industry is ready to acknowledge it or not, the events surrounding the SoFi Stadium presale suggest that certain artists no longer operate within standard market dynamics. Jungkook's birthday concert is already being discussed as a phenomenon, a moment where emotional demand overwhelmed logistical reality. And the concert has not even happened yet. As BTS prepares to take the stage in September, one question lingers in the air, heavier than all the others. If this is what happens before ARMY can even enter the stadium, what will happen when the lights go down? The music begins, and Jungkook celebrates his birthday in front of tens of thousands of people who fought. Time, technology, and probability just to be there. Perhaps the real story of September 1st, 2026, is not about tickets that vanished, but about what remains. The undeniable truth that in today's music landscape, emotion moves faster than systems can follow, and sometimes, all it takes is Jungkook to make the world stop breathing for a moment. And as the shock of that presale began to settle, a deeper realization quietly took hold among fans, analysts, and even casual observers of the industry. This was not an isolated incident, and it was not an accident. What unfolded around September 1st was the visible surface of a much larger undercurrent that has been building for years, one that now feels impossible to ignore, because if this had been about BTS alone, any of the 4 SoFi Stadium dates should have collapsed equally. Yet they did not. September 2nd, 5, and 6 were in demand, yes, but they did not vanish with the same violent speed. Only one date evaporated almost instantly, and that distinction matters. It tells a story not just about popularity, but about emotional gravity. Within hours, timelines across X, YouTube, and fan communities filled with a single repeating phrase, expressed in dozens of languages, but carrying the same meaning. Of course, it was Jungkook's birthday. The tone was not bitter. It was almost resigned, as if fans had always known this would happen, even if they hadn't dared to say it out loud. And the modern era of K-pop, where metrics dominate headlines and success is often reduced to numbers, moments like this cut through the noise. They remind everyone that fandom is not just transactional. It is relational. And Jungkook's relationship with ARMY has always been uniquely intense, built over more than a decade of shared vulnerability, growth, and presence, from his early days as the Golden Magne to his evolution into a global pop figure capable of anchoring brands, stages, and cultural conversations on his own. Jungkook's journey has unfolded publicly, almost intimately. Fans did not simply watch him grow, they grew alongside him. Birthdays, in that context, are not trivial. They are markers of time passed together. That is why September 1st carries a weight that algorithms struggle to measure. Industry insiders quietly noted that even for artists with massive followings, birthday concerts rarely trigger this level of imbalance unless something deeper is at play. The scale of demand suggested not just interest,